What is going on YouTube? It's Primitive here, bringing you round 3 of the Rocky Mount Collectibles local that happened this past Friday. We are going to have myself on the right playing LordKnightmon versus my opponent on the left playing Imperial. I am going to go ahead and start off with a Bushi and take a bit of time of thinking because I do have a handful of level 5s, so I do have to decide what I'm going to do here. And so while I think about this, I do want to apologize and say that the last video I did accidentally record the audio through my webcam and not my microphone, so the audio is a bit whacked out, and I do apologize, but I will make sure and double check that each time I record going forward that I do have the correct audio source. But as you saw, I did go ahead and just pass my turn because I do have a bunch of level 5s. My opponent's going to go ahead and Digivolve into Gabumon, and they are going to Hammer Spark to go to 4, play Sora and Joe, putting themselves down to 0 memory, and playing a hard Vmon so that I go up to 3 memory. I still have a handful of 5s, so I do have to consider what is the play going forward here. As I think I do promote, I will decide to Blinding Ray to go to 5, trashing the Pulse, going down to 4 security, and playing Andromon as a hard play, and putting my opponent to 2, and they will go to 4 memory due to Sora and Joe's effect. My opponent's going to Digivolve into Lobomon, putting them at 2 memory. Deciding to swing, jamming, going to hit Knightmon, but it doesn't matter because of the jamming. And then they'll Digivolve into Imperialdramon, which put me at 1. I'm going to go ahead and likely Digivolve on top of... Here we go, Starmons. I do remember debating playing the Starmons because I wanted to hard play it on this Vmon, but I did actually, fortunately, top deck another Starmons off of the Digivolution, which is going to allow me to play Starmons and clear the Vmon. My opponent will go to 2 memory and then go to 4 with the Sora Joe boost. My opponent decides to promote Imperialdramon. This is super scary for me because I only have 3 security. Now I have 2 security, so my opponent can go into Imperial, swing 2 more security, and then either go into Lobomon or go into Omnimon. But we do see our opponent tap Sora Joe, so the Lobomon is no longer, or the Hammer Spark Lobomon is no longer an option. So they do have to have the Omnimon. But as we can see, they don't swing in right away. They just decide to unsuspend and hard play, go to 2, and then they will choose to hard play a rookie, putting me at 1. So now this is a tough turn for me because my opponent does just have lethal on board. They can swing twice with the Imperial, plus we have the Vmon, so I have to be worried about my opponent potentially clearing me out. But I do go ahead and just get rid of my last security, so that way I'm able to Digivolve into War Greymon, which is going to be super helpful because of the Andromon underneath it. I'm going to be able to potentially proc that effect twice and play 2 different rookies. I'm thinking here because I do have a play and I have to think about it. I do have to consider the fact that I can potentially, I have 3 different plays here. I could potentially clear my opponent's board with a swing or with the Valderarm. I can also potentially swing in because I know I have the Bushi, so I could go ahead and recover with the Lucamon, unstand to pop the Vmon, security check for 11k, Gomamon's gonna stay. We're going to swing Starmons once again. It's gonna die. Swing Bushi's gonna crash, and then we're gonna play here. As long as we don't hit Hammer Spark, we play Bushi and swing in. And so that was a very close game where I was 1 turn away from losing, but was able to just get the the Bushi to go ahead and win the game there. And so we will be going into game 2. I am up 1-0, and my opponent will be going first, which, as we will see, will end up being not the best decision for them because they do have a little bit bricky of a hand. You can see the Colemon on their hand that they're consider playing right here. Considering playing the hard playing the Colemon, which would put me at 6 memory and give me a tremendous boost on my first turn. However, we do see our opponent just go ahead and pass, which is probably smarter than putting LordKnightmon onto 6, but we are going to Digivolve into Cutemon, go ahead and play Unimon, and we'll be at 2. We'll take the free memory to just develop on board and get another champion on board. Opponent's going to hard play the Colemon now, which will put me at 2 memory. Or put me at 4 memory, sorry, they were at 2 memory. And I can Digivolve into Knightmon, and then go ahead and Digivolve straight into LordKnightmon, which will be very safe because my opponent can't deal with it. The only thing it can do is Citus Breath, which will leave me at 5 memory as it is, and put Knightmon back into my hand, so I won't be too far behind. opponent's going to play a second Colamon hard play, putting me at 4 once again, showing me that my opponent doesn't have the most powerful of hand. So I'm going to swing with Knightmon. I'm going to play a Knightmon, and my opponent trashes away thinking that it dies, but it just goes down to 1k. My opponent is going to hit Clyde's Breath. I assume they would bring back the Knightmon, but they actually choose to bring back the Cutemon to save them some security checks, I'm assuming. Which is confusing to me a bit because I do have 2 blockers, but I'm going to go ahead and pop the other Colamon, leaving this Colamon on the board with 1k DP, but we aren't going to be able to deal with it. Even if the Cutemon stayed on board, the Koromon would not be active, so we would need Starmons or something else to do that -1 DP, but we will just leave it alive and play Cutemon, making it so my opponent can't safely Imperial without having to pay 5. So we'll see what our opponent does here. They are in a pretty rough position just because we have 2 Megas on board plus a Cutemon, which is shutting off their Imperial, and we have a 4th Digimon being promoted with their 4 security. So that means if we swing 4 times and drop Debushi, we do technically have lethal on the next turn. So my opponent's going to go into Imperialdramon just because it looks like they need to cycle because they're not hitting or anything. They're going to swing, putting me down to 4, hitting the Knightmon, but jamming. And they're going to Hammer Spark to go to 1 and then Digivolve into Imperial, but they are going to have to pay the full 5 cost because of Cutemon, so that puts me at 4 memory. And then once we go here, I do remember I do have 2 Bushi Agumon in hand, so it really comes down to am I going to be able to just clear out the board right now? My feeling is yes, so I Hammer Spark to go to 6, so that way I can hard play the second Bushi if I need to. But I decide to swing out first in case I hit Hammer Spark. So we swing, 1 security, swing, Cutemon dies, Pitomon swings for game, and that is it. So that is going to be round 3, and there's the Bushi, and that is it. We'll see you for round 4 and the 4th and final rounds as I move on to 3-0. See you next time.